No matter how hard you try, you can't stop us now.
They were not made of ordinary stuff.
I was not this animal that the press had made me out to be.
I was sure they were going to kill us, really.
They were nice kids to me.
I want to talk to the governor.
They committed every crime there is in the book.
It was one of the worst crime sprees in Richmond history and one of its greatest mysteries. It all began right here.
The Briley brothers grew up in this house. They had a solid family, hard-working parents. James Briley, the father, worked at the School Street concrete block factory.
He was a nice enough man.
The mother, Bertha, worked most of her life at the grill at Virginia Union University.
Ms. Briley is one of the sweetest ladies you'd ever want to meet.
The couple had 3 sons, Linwood, the oldest, then James, and Anthony, the baby. I talked with their father off camera recently. He said Linwood was practically a genius, and he can't point to anything that could have caused their behavior.
And you could tell he was just shocked by what he was finding out.
The boy's wildness drove the mother out of the house.
They were separated when all this was going on.
I can't imagine the devastation to her.
The father locked his bedroom door from the inside.
Seemed like they had a pretty good family. However, Linwood got in trouble when he was 16 years old.
It was 1971. Linwood Briley fired a .22 caliber bullet into the back of his elderly neighbor as she puttered in her kitchen.
He claimed that he was shooting at a bird.
Later, during a psychiatric evaluation, Linwood said the neighbor was old and was going to die anyway. He spent a year in detention. Younger brother James soon followed.
I did a wrong, which was in 73. I armed robbed a store. I shot at a police officer. I made a mistake and I went to prison.
As soon as James got out of prison, March 79, the rampage began. The brothers were joined by a 16-year-old neighbor, Duncan Eric Meekins, who would later testify about the 9 months of hell to come. The only known survivors were the first victims on a quiet lakeside street.
Doorbell rang. I told my wife, I said, well, I guess that's a paper boy. He used to come around about that time every 2 weeks. So I unlocked the screen door. When I did that, man, he threw his hand in there, pulled it open, pulled a gun on me. Get your ass back in there.
He and his wife were tied up, and the Brileys ransacked the house, dumping all the valuables into pillowcases. They loaded it all up into William's car, and then
They took the clothes down and put them under that table, shot lighter fluid on the clothes.
And they sprayed the paneling in the den.
Started that on fire. The fire over here and the fire there.
So they left you to die in here?
Yeah, they did, right. But when she said they're gone, I started wiggling my hands, getting them out.
As smoke and flames filled the house, he freed his hands and feet, then cut his wife loose, and they got outside.
This guy, Meekins, was the guy that I think tied me up. I think he was the rookie. He didn't know too much about what was going on.
9 days later, on March 21st, the Brileys broke into the home of Michael McDuffie, robbed and murdered him. April 9, they robbed and raped 76-year-old Mary Gowan outside of her home, then shot her to death. 4th of July, 17-year-old Christopher Phillips was killed by Linwood.
Crushed a young boy's head with a cinder block because he looked at their car.
September 14th, the gang jumps well-known WXGI radio personality Johnny G. Gallagher. They strip him, rob him, shoot him in the back, and dump his body by the river. September 20th, 62-year-old nurse Mary Wilfong robbed and beaten to death with a baseball bat.
I've never known too many murderers whose favorite implement was a baseball bat.
October 5th, 2 blocks from the Briley home, 79-year-old Blanche Page and her boarder beaten to death with a baseball bat.
The man was stabbed in the back at least 8 or 10 times with different weapons like butcher knives, meat forks, scissors, and all this stuff was sticking out of his back.
October 19th, Judy Barton, 5 months pregnant, is gang raped as her 5-year-old son and boyfriend lie tied up. All three shot to death.
I remember the blood was caked all over the floor in the form that it stuck to your shoes.
Investigators believe young Duncan Meekins and Anthony Briley were led astray by James and Linwood. How could the two older Briley brothers do those things?
If you had 25 cents in your pocket and they wanted it, they'd cut your throat to take it.
They were just vicious.
And where that comes from, I don't know.